Was that you I heard milling around last night, or was that a ghost?
Me, probably.
And a nightmare?
No.
Did I ever tell you about Mr. Baldo?
Mr. Baldo?
Yeah. I was a little younger than you, standing in line for the Ferris wheel at the Rowan County Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, I feel this fat white glove tap me on the shoulder. I spin around, and there he is, Mr. Baldo. Hey, kiddo, would you like a balloon? Go ahead, laugh. It's funny. It wasn't funny back then, I can tell you that. I couldn't get him out of my head. Every night, he would come to me in my dreams. And every night when he came to me, I ran. It got so bad that I made my mom stay in the room with me until I could fall asleep every night.
Really?
Really. It went on like that for months. And then one day, the nightmares suddenly stopped. Want to know how?
How?
Well, I fell asleep. And just like always, Mr. Baldo came to me. Only this time, I didn't run. This time, I stood my ground. I just looked at Mr. Baldo and his stupid face, and I said, "Go away! Go away!" Just like that, he was gone. Never saw him again. Easy peasy, right?
Easy peasy.
Just like that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Stranger Danger Podcast, starring me. That's right, everybody. It's Friday night. And when I say Friday night, I mean Friday night, okay? 10:30. I want to get this podcast up hours ago, but it's just not the way it's going to happen. It just can't happen that way. Not happening that way. And that's why you're hearing me very late in this evening. By the time you get this, it's probably already Saturday morning for you people. But hello and welcome. And I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Right into Stranger Things, episode 11, The Pollywog. This episode picks up pretty much exactly where the last one left off. Last time, Dustin looked into his garbage, Ghostbusters music played, and, he saw something. This time, he sneaks that thing into his house, which, to me, the first thing I would have done when I saw it was run. But he grabbed it, picked it up, put it in his little Ghostbusters trap, brought it into the house, tried to get by his mom, but his mom was like, "Dusty, did you have fun tonight?" And, you could see you could tell, or it seems like that it's just Dustin and his mom. And she's very naive, but very loving, and he can kind of manipulate her. Because he's just like, "Oh, hi, Mom, how you doing?" And he tricks his mom saying that he rigged the trap to make it look like that he caught a ghost. But he brings the little creature into his room, and he kicks Yertle out of his tank. Yertle the turtle, which is actually the name of a Dr. Seuss book. And there's actually a cool little, I also noticed an E.T. kind of ceramic figurine or bank. I don't know what it was, but that was cool to see. So he puts a thing in the tank, and it immediately gets out of the light. Like it's afraid of the light. It hides in the shade. But he is, he's excited because he thinks he's discovered something. He's like, oh, do you like nougat? He throws some candy down. It likes nougat just like him. He looks at the Three Musketeers bar and decides the name of this thing, D'Artagnan. And then or Dart for short, but I think he just calls him D'Artagnan there. And then it shows him still in bed that night sleeping, and they kind of pan up to the tank, and D'Artagnan lets out a little roar. That's when the credits start. When we come back, we are in the woods. It's another flashback, and 11 actually sees Hopper going back to that food container. So he's done it before, where he brought the food that we saw in season 1. He brought food. They showed him bringing the food in season 2. That could have probably been the same time. So we can count that as 1, and this, is at least the second time that he's brought back food. So, but this is the time where she watches him do it. She sees that it's him, and she reveals himself to him. Flash forward back to the present, and you can see that she's still mad at him. She's lying in bed, and she doesn't really want to get up and deal with him, but he talks about a triple ego extravaganza, and that makes her eyes bug open, and, she's quick to apologize to him. Sort of. She's still pretty mad at him. But they're eating breakfast together. She's trying to, not be angry. And he notices that the TV cord was pulled into her bedroom again. And he knows what that means.
You visited him again last night?
He says he needs me.
You want me to go check on him? I know that you miss him, all right? But it's too dangerous. You're the last thing he needs right now. You're gonna see him soon. And not just in that head of yours, you're gonna see him in real life. I feel like I'm making progress with these people.
Friends don't lie.
What?
You say soon on day 21. You say soon on day 205. You now say soon on day 326.
What is this? You're like counting the days now, like you're some kind of prisoner?
When is soon?
Soon is when it's not dangerous anymore.
When?
I don't know.
On day 500?
I don't know.
On day 600?
I don't know.
Day 700? On day 800? I
Shit! Shit!
Friends don't lie.
So you can see that, 11's still angry at him. And he's being really overprotective. He's saying that, you're going to see him. You're going to see him again. But it seems like he's been saying that for a long time. He's been saying soon for a long time, and it's getting to 11. And she took it out on him. Did some of her little power, slammed the door, spilt all the Eggos all over him. She's not really happy with Hopper right now. Over at the Byers' house, they're getting ready for work, getting ready for the school day. And Bob suggests or decides or asks if he could take Will to school with him. He said he'll drive Will to school. And one thing Jonathan noticed is that Bob was there in the morning, so Bob slept over. But yeah, Joyce was completely fine with Bob bringing Will to school, with the fact that how overprotective she is with Will, that she trusts Bob with him, shows how much she trusts Bob and likes Bob. We have a quick hit of Dustin going over to the library, getting all these books on lizards, on species. He wants to learn all about anything he can about Dart. It was a funny exchange between him and the librarian. And it is the same librarian that dated Hopper, and they mentioned that in the first season. But he's trying to take 5 books out. She says, you can only have 5 books out, and you already have 5 books out. And he was talking about them being a journey of discovery, and these are his oars. I don't know. He is... it seems like he feels like he could sweet talk any adult because he gets away with it with his mom. But he tricks her and runs off with the 5 books. And then we cut over to Bob and Will in the car together. And that's where we get the audio that opened up the show, where Bob talks about how when he was a kid, he had real bad nightmares from this clown that he saw at a fair once when he was a kid, called Mr. Baldo. And, you know, he would have nightmares about Mr. Baldo every night. He would sleep in his mom's room, and until he finally decided that he wasn't going to be scared anymore. And he wouldn't run. He had a dream about Mr. Baldo. He wouldn't run. He'd turn around and just say, "Go away, go away." And Mr. Baldo went away. Will seemed to really take to that advice. Might not have been the best advice, but it was definitely, something that spoke to Will. And the Easter egg that people are talking about is that when Bob was a kid in Maine, he came across a scary clown that he was able to defeat by not believing in it and not believing it was real. And that really seems to speak of, or at least reference, it. So as we see that we're not going to get any more story of Bob in future seasons. So I don't think we're going to get anything more on that. So it's probably just a fun little Easter egg, or really just something for the fans to speculate on. But I love that kind of stuff nonetheless. You know, while Dustin is completely consumed with D'Artagnan, that kind of leaves Max all alone with Lucas so they can spend more time together. And at the school, Max is trying to figure out why everyone is calling Will Zombie Boy. It doesn't make sense. Because he got lost in the woods? That doesn't explain Zombie Boy. And Lucas is like, we had a funeral and everything. She's like, after a week? Lucas did a pretty good job of trying to get around. He's like, there was a kid who was found in a quarry who was so decomposed that we thought it was Will. It's hard to explain. You can ask anybody, just don't ask Will about it. Outside the school, Bob drops Will off, and Will just kind of has that, he's like a real tentative walk into the school, and all the kids stare at him. He must hate that, but it seems like just kids look at him, frightened of him, not sure what to think. Inside the classroom, Mr. Clark is talking about the case of Phineas Gage, which is a real person who had an iron rod, through an accident, an iron rod shoved or lodged in his head, but he survived, but his personality changed. I'm trying to think, is that foreshadowing, because Will goes through something traumatic, something does go inside him, and his personality does change. So that might be a pretty cool foreshadowing. And Dustin, rumbles into the classroom. He's like, he was, again, the way he talks to Mr. Clark, he calls him my lord, and he's like, I'm sorry, keep going. But he whispers to everyone, AV Club at lunch, including Max, AV Club at lunch. And finally, Mr. Clark's like, enough. Can we focus here? Meanwhile, over at the police department, Hopper's officers are talking to him about all the rotted crops everywhere. Everything they found, they've mapped it out, or he maps it out. And he sees that it's all surrounding, like ripples of an ocean, all surrounding this building, which he doesn't say what it is, but it's obviously the lab. Meanwhile, 11, I like to say meanwhile a lot. 11, she's home alone. She's bored. She wants to go out. You could tell she wants to go out. She's looking at these locks, and she has a flashback of Hopper taking her to the cabin that they're in now. And he's like, this is nice. It's going to clean up nice. This is your new home. And she's like, home? He puts on some groovy Jim Croce, who I love. And, of course, there's a really cool cleaning montage. They show the montage. It's You Don't Mess Around with Jim is the name of the song. Teaches her Morse code using the CB radio, sets up the TV for her. He builds an awesome tripwire using a mousetrap and a bullet. And he sets up some ground rules with her.
bad men aren't gonna find you. All right? Not way the hell out of here. I'll take some precautions. There's gonna be a couple ground rules. Rule number 1, always keep the curtains drawn. Rule number 2, only open the door if you hear my secret knock. And rule number 3, don't ever go out alone, especially not in the daylight. That's it. 3 rules. I call them the, don't be stupid rules. Because we're not stupid. Right?
Not stupid.
So, of course, 11, she's getting at that age. She's annoyed. She wants to break the rules, and that's what she does. She actually breaks all the rules. She puts up the curtains. She unlocks the doors. And, of course, she goes out on her own, steps right over the tripwire and heads out on her own. Over at the school is it's another moment of just seeing Billy as being a real jerk who really does a weird basketball shot to show off. But it looked like something that someone his age would do, going under the leg. It wasn't very smooth. It didn't look very good, but, he thinks it's the coolest thing in the world. He's, pushing Steve around on the basketball court, saying, you're not the king of the school anymore. And Nancy comes to talk to him, takes him outside, and you can see Steve is just completely cold to her. Just basically tells her how she was mean to him that day. She was drunk, but he's like, you said everything was bullshit. You said our love was bullshit. And she's like, I was drunk. Oh, really? Then can you say you love me? And she just kind of freezes. And he's like, yep, that's what I thought. Steve, unlucky in love. He just heads back into school. And meanwhile, because this is all taking place at the school, Dustin gets all the kids into the AV club and talks and shows them Dart.
His name is D'Artagnan. Cute, right?
D'Artagnan?
Dart for short.
And he was in your trash.
Foraging for food. You want to hold him?
No.
He doesn't bite. Don't worry.
Oh, God, he's slimy.
Oh, he's like a living booger. Oh, God.
What is he?
My question exactly. At first, I thought he was some type of pollywog.
Pollywog?
It's another word for tadpole. A tadpole is the larval stage of a toad.
I know what a tadpole is.
All right, then you know that most tadpoles are aquatic, right? Well, Dart, he isn't. He doesn't need water.
Yeah, but aren't there non-aquatic pollywogs?
Terrestrial polywogs? Yep, 2 to be exact. Indurana semipalmata and the Adenomira Andrea. One's from India, one's from South America. So how did one end up in my trash?
Maybe some scientists brought it here and it escaped?
Do you guys see that? It looks like something's moving inside of it.
Whoa. It's okay. I got you, little guy. I know you don't like that. It's okay. And there's another thing. Reptiles, they're cold-blooded. Ectothermic, right? They love heat, the sun. Dart hates it. It hurts him.
So if he's not a pollywog or a reptile...
Then I've discovered a new species.
We gotta show him to Mr. Clark.
No, what if he steals my discovery?
He's not gonna steal your discovery.
I'm thinking about calling it Dustonius polywogus. What do you think?
I think you're an idiot.
When I become rich and famous for this one day, don't come calling back to me saying, oh my God, Dustin, I'm so sorry for being mean to you back in 8th grade. Oh my God.
So Dustin's all excited. He thinks he's discovered a new species. I think he's trying to use it to impress Max. And you you just see Will really starting to freak out because the sound. He remembered that sound from being in the underground. Remember that sound from the underground. It was the Upside Down, but for some reason that completely flipped me over. And I was saying underground. It's Upside Down. He remembered that sound from the Upside Down. Now I need to write some rap lyrics for that. Plus, it showed him, remember at the end of last season, he spit that little slug up in the sink? Well, maybe it wasn't a slug. Maybe it was the smaller version of this thing, whatever D'Artagnan is. So he's completely freaked, but he didn't say anything yet. So they're probably heading to lunch because it is lunchtime. And at the general store that Joyce works at, Bob shows up to bring lunch to her. And he talks about, he's kind of reiterating and showing how good of a person he is, of how much he loves or really likes Joyce, really thinks he's getting close to Will. You know, Jonathan's a hard nut to crack, but he really likes Joyce. And, he wanted to mention that, he noticed that the camcorder was scuffed up. And when he watched the tape, he saw that Will was being picked on and bullied by some kids. And he just talked about how, he was like one of those kids that just didn't stick up for himself and didn't, wasn't overly strong and didn't speak out. And he wondered why there were bullies like that who would do that, who would exploit kids like that and pick on kids like that. But he says, hey, look at me. In the end, I'm dating Joyce Byers. To me, that line made me think, oh, Joyce was a pretty big deal in high school, and he obviously had a crush on her then, and he finally gets to date her now. And he also he wanted to say that he loves Joyce because she fights back, she punches back, because she was pissed when she heard some kids were picking on Will, so she definitely wants to find out who these kids are. Now, Hopper, meanwhile, is over at the lab, and he's telling Dr. Owens all about the crop issue.
Grass, crops, trees, everything in this area is either dead or dying, and that's a radius of over 3 miles. And it all leads back to here.
See, these patterns here are really pretty. I like the design. It's almost psychedelic.
This is a joke to you, huh?
No, it's not a joke. I don't understand what this has to do with me, Chief.
Whatever is happening is spreading from this place, from this lab.
That's impossible. The last burn was 2 days ago. It's contained.
What if there's a leak?
A leak?
I don't know, man. You're the scientist.
Exactly. And I'm telling you, there's nothing to worry about.
Convince me.
Convince you?
Yeah. You and your egghead friends go out there to every area on this map and you run your tests or whatever the hell it is you do and you see if anything comes up.
All right, so you're giving me orders now? No.
I keep things nice and quiet for you. Mm-hmm. And you keep your shit out of my town. That is the deal. I have done my part. Now you do yours. Convince me.
What I love about Hopper is Paul Reiser does this weird thing where he's like, you give me orders now? And he just does this shake of the head like, no, that's not how it works. And I thought it was such a cool, I don't know, just the way he acted it was really like, oh my God, this guy's like, he's not going to be messed with. And Hopper just comes right at him, not intimidated at all. He's like, look, I covered up for all your crap. You're going to get out there and you're going to make sure that my town is safe. So find that crap. Convince me what the issue is. I loved that. Back over at the school, Nancy and Jonathan are together eating lunch. And it seemed like Jonathan's like, yeah, because Nancy obviously approached him, you'd think, after what Steve said, to figure out what happened, because she had no recollection of Jonathan bringing her home. And now, I don't know if this was a scene that was cut or if they filmed something they didn't use, which would be the same thing as the scene being cut. But Jonathan's like, yeah, he asked me to take you home. And he He was really concerned. He was really worried. He was upset. And didn't Steve just run right by him, walk right by him, and didn't say anything? He was just pissed? That's how I remember it happening. So is Jonathan just trying to make nice or be nice or not ruffle any feathers? That's what that seemed like. But you could see that they're having they bond a little bit about how hard it is for them to move on, you know. Nancy can't move on because Barb's gone. Barb's dead. Barb's not coming back, and she seemingly can't say or do anything about it. And Jonathan's, you know, the fact that Will's back, but he's not the same. We don't know what's wrong with him. You know, it's like it's hard for them to move on. And Nancy's pissed that she doesn't want them to get away with it. You know, and Jonathan's like, they're all dead. And she's like, you really think they're all gone? The people who did this, who are behind this. She sees a guy with a Walkman, and she has a pretty good idea. Now, 11, where we left her, she was off walking through the woods. And she ends up in the backyard of some woman, and she sees the woman and her daughter. She has a little flashback of a moment, which is a really cool moment, and I just read about this Easter egg right now. So it's a flashback of Hopper reading to her. And while he's reading to her, she asks if she has a mother. And he's like, you know, everyone has a mother, but you know, she's not around anymore. But what I realized is Hopper was reading something that didn't feel, you know, so it was sad because you know, he was like, she's gone, and 11 wiped away a tear. But Hopper was reading her something that didn't feel like a children's story. But I found what it was. So here's the passage that he read to her, or this is the section of what he was reading to her. I would feel so sad if I was a disappointment to her, because she didn't live very long after that, you see. She died of a fever when I was just 3 months old. I do wish she'd lived long enough for me to remember calling her mother. I think it would be so sweet to say mother, don't you? And father died 4 days afterwards from fever too. That left me an orphan, and folks were at their wits' end. So Mrs. Thompson said, what to do with me? You see, nobody wanted me even then. It seems to be my fate. So that is from the book Anne of Green Gables. Now, first of all, that passage, pretty depressing passage, but it, you know, it talked about an orphan, talked about someone whose mother died. It was just definitely relatable to 11. But what's even cooler is that Anne of Green Gables, that's what this book is from, is the same book that Hopper was reading to his daughter when she was sick, when they were showing the moments of that in season 1. I just love that they do stuff like that. And to me, it makes it seem like Hopper, this is the book that Hopper goes to. This is his go-to book. This is the one he reads to his daughter. This is the one he's going to read to 11. So I just thought that was a really awesome little Easter egg. Back in the present, that woman's like, excuse me, young lady. You know, she's just like, school. Oh, it's a mile away. And 11 distracts them and heads off. Now, Joyce went back home. There was a funny moment. She's trying to figure out how to get the camcorder tape into her VCR, but it's a completely different tape. See, when I was a kid, I had a full VCR, VHS tape, so I could take them right out of my camera, put them into the VHS system. The VHS system, also known as a VCR. But these earlier tapes had smaller cassettes. So Bob was trying to walk her through all the tech. Finally, you know, he gets her to watch it, or he gets her to figure it out. She just hangs up on him. And she watches the tape, sees the bullying, and, you know, sees some flickering. And she sees this white outline, and she freaks. She realizes it looks very familiar. She grabs some wax paper, scratches it out like a tracing of the what it was, colors it all in, and looks, and it's the same friggin' shape that's in Will's drawing. Awesome. Back at school, Will finally tells Mike about Dart. He's like, listen, I got to tell you something. At the same time, Dustin was just about to show Mr. Clark his discovery. And Mike busts into the room and he's like, stop. It's a big prank. Let's go. He grabs the trap and runs them back to the AV club. There's a quick little scene, just a little scene to break this moment up where Billy being a jerk again. I think that was the girl from season 1 he's with. I don't remember. But Billy ditches Max and drives off with some chick. And she's like, what about your sister? She didn't say it with a Boston accent. Billy's like, don't say that. It's not my sister. And I noticed when he backs up, he never looks back. That just reminds me of someone who does not care if he hits someone. He just takes off and rips out. Meanwhile, Max is inside the school, but locked out of the AV club, and she's trying to get in. She's trying to figure out why they're not letting her in. She's banging on the door, but only Dustin, Will, Lucas, and Mike are in the AV club because they're talking about stuff from the Upside Down.
Guys, come on, can I come in yet? No!
I don't understand.
What do you not understand?
Will saw something that looked like Dart last year.
Kinda, but there was no tail.
But then he heard it yesterday. The exact same sound.
Why didn't you tell us before?
I wasn't sure.
So it's a coincidence.
Or not. What if when Will was stuck in the Upside Down, he somehow acquired true sight?
True sight?
Gives you the power to see into the ethereal plane.
Elaborate.
Maybe these episodes that Will keeps having aren't really flashbacks at all. Maybe they're real. Maybe Will can somehow see into the Upside Down.
So that would mean
Dart is from the Upside Down.
we have to take him to Hopper.
I agree.
No way. If we take him to Hopper, Dart's as good as dead.
Maybe he should be dead.
How can you say that?
How could you not? He's from the Upside Down.
Maybe. But even if he is, it doesn't automatically mean that he's bad.
That's like saying just because someone's from the Death Star doesn't make them bad.
We have a bond.
A bond? Just because he likes nougat?
No, because he trusts me.
He trusts you.
Yes, I promised that I would take care of
Guys, what's going on? Come on.
Don't hurt him.
Only if he attacks.
Just open it already. Holy shit.
Where'd he go? What was that? Dart! What? You let him escape!
Why did you attack him?
Come on!
Don't hurt him! Don't you hurt him!
So they know now that Dart has to be from the Upside Down. And this thing is already mutating. It freaked out in the box. It ended up growing legs, got bigger automatically, and it grew legs right in front of them. And then it runs off while Mike's trying to kill it. So Mike did not waste any time, tries to kill the thing. It runs off. It escapes. There's definitely music that is pulling in some references to Gremlins there. And the thing takes off running through the school. And did you notice Mike just blames Max, like yells at Max, and Dustin's like Matt and Mike because Mike's trying to kill it, and Dustin wants it for himself because he still thinks he can say he discovered some great scientific thing. This is all going on during the school day, which Nancy and Jonathan seem to have skipped out a little early. Actually, no, they didn't skip out early. They skipped out early to go to Radio Shack because after school, Nancy and Jonathan head over to the Wheeler house. They go up into Nancy's room because apparently they don't mind Jonathan being up there. And they call Barb's mom. She's like, look, I need to be telling you something. You know, there's something I can't tell you over the phone, but I wasn't completely honest about what happened with Barb. We need to meet to discuss it at this time. And she hangs up. And you realize she did that knowing that they would be listening in. The quote-unquote they, the bad men, would be listening in on the phone call. And speaking of they, or at least the government, Dr. Owens is out there in the field with Hopper, and he's out there testing the rot. He really doesn't think that they have anything to do with it, but he definitely finds that it is messy. And he's like, Hopper's like, you keep testing. He gets a call from his deputies, and they're like, hey, that Russian girl that Murray was talking about, he might not be so crazy after all. Hopper knows exactly what that means. Gets the hell out of there quickly. And Owens, I wasn't sure if Owens was just watching him or if Owens overheard him and figured out what the hell they were talking about. But obviously Hopper knows they're talking about 11. And meanwhile, 11 makes it to the school. She sees Mike's bike and she just has this nice little moment of like, he's in there. He's actually inside the school. Inside the school, the kids are all looking for Dart. And of course, Mike and 11 walk right by each other in the hallway. They almost meet. And Mike actually goes into the gym and runs into Max. And you can see he just does not like her.
Why do you hate me so much?
I don't hate you. How can I hate you? I don't even know you.
Yeah, but you don't want me in your party?
Correct.
Why not?
Because you're annoying. Also, we don't need another party member. I'm our paladin, Will's our cleric, Dustin's our bard, Lucas is our ranger, and Elle's our mage.
Elle? Who's Elle?
Someone. No one.
Someone or no one?
She was in our party a long time ago. She moved away, okay?
She was a mage? Well, what could she do, like magic tricks or something? Well, I could be your Zoomer.
That's not even a real thing.
It could be. See? Zoomer.
Mind-blowing.
Oh, come on, you know you're on the list.
So you see 11 looks in, sees them talking to... first of all, she looks in and sees Mike, and she's all excited that she sees Mike talking to Max, has no idea what they're talking about, but she is automatically jealous, and she has almost this look on in her eye like a year's passed and Mike's moved on, but she's still a kid. She's still a jealous kid, and she does her little power and pulls Max right off her skateboard. She says it felt like a magnet pulled her skateboard, and Mike's like, my first thought of Mike was that's powers. Turns around, turns his head, looking for 11, suspicious, kind of goes out towards the hallway, but there's nowhere to be found. After Joyce saw the drawing, she ends up calling the school, and the people in the office were like, oh, it's Joyce Byers again. She's like, hey, can I be patched over to the AV club? They're with Mr. Clark. And the woman's like, Mr. Clark left. Maybe AV club was canceled today. She's like, what? Boom, flips out, turns on her, gets in her car, rips out, heads over to the school. Meanwhile, at the school, Will is the one that found Dart. He's like, I found him. And he's got his walkie-talkie. My first thought, is this a reference to Venkman when Venkman found Slimer? I don't know if it is. I need to go back, but that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. But it roared, and when it roared, it freaked Will out. Like, it looked right at Will, and it gave this little roar, and Will freaked out, backed out of the bathroom. He's just kind of like freaked out, breathes in, breathes out, and then there's a flicker, and boom, he's in the upside down. And not only is he in the upside down, but now the shadow is chasing him through the halls, chasing him outside into the schoolyard. Back in our regular dimension, Dustin finds Dart. He's like, hey there, buddy. Hides him under his hat while all the other kids come in, lies about it. They're like, I don't know what Will saw. And Mike's like, where is Will? And not flashback, we cut back over to the upside down, and Will is running through the school, and then he thinks about what Bob said, and he decides to stop running.
Go away! Go away! Go away!
Easy peasy, right?
Easy peasy.
Just like that.
Come on. When they replayed the intercut of Bob talking about how he said go away, just like that with a snap of his fingers, tell me for a second you didn't think, oh my God, Bob is evil. Oh my God, Bob made Will stop. Oh my God, Bob is part of the underground. Bob is working for this giant smoke monster, shadow monster. Because even the second time, even after watching the whole season and knowing exactly what I know about Bob, still I'm like, wow, they really make Bob look a little evil there. I loved it. Awesome. So, I mean, that's the end of the episode. The episode ends with this shadow monster, with Bob's advice really backfiring and being pretty bad, and the shadow monster kind of creeping its way inside of Will, going in his mouth, going in his nose, and boom, the episode ends. So let's go through the old, what did we learn? What did we learn in this episode? Well, we learned that Hopper believes that the rot caused in all the crop is coming from the lab. He's convinced it's coming from the lab. He knows that 11 is missing. 11 is bored. She wants to get out of the house. Hopper's been keeping her there. She's been visiting Mike in her head, but not in real life. She needs to get out, and she does get out. And she apparently some people have noticed that she's out, and she is angry. But she sees Mike, but she does not talk to him. I think she's sad. I think she thinks that Mike's moved on, which is exactly the opposite of what it is. So, but she's jealous of Max. You can tell that right away. Dustin this is the episode where you get angry with Dustin because he's being a real dum-dum. He's thinking more only for himself, for the discovery of Dart, and he's kind of have an affection for Dart. He's close to Dart. And Dart does seem to respond to him. We learned that Steve is pretty much done with Nancy, or at least at this moment. He's really pissed at her. But Jonathan and Nancy have got the ball rolling on some plan they have to try to expose them, the bad people, the bad men. Will, we learn, finally stands up against the shadow monster. And it was not a very good idea. We learned that Owens from the lab is does not think that they're responsible for what's going on, or at least he's saying that publicly. But he probably has an inkling that this all has something to do with it, with the gate. We learned that the shadow monster was picked up on a camcorder, and it is after Will, and it's going to get Will. And of course, that D'Artagnan is from the Upside Down, and Will is aware of this monster, and Mike is ready to kill this monster. And Lucas is just freaked out by this monster. And Lucas kicking in the door of a teacher's classroom while looking for Dart was probably the funniest part of the whole episode. Good episode. Progressed the story along well. 11 is growing up. She's starting to become more independent and less afraid. Mike is still sad. Oh, and this Mike is tired. You know what that means? That means the episode is over and it's time to go home. Thank you so much for downloading my show. That's all I have for that song, since I just made it up and I'm very tired. So what is this? This is Stranger Danger. It's the Stranger Things podcast brought to you by Geek Mentality, part of fansnotexperts.com. So go to fansnotexperts.com to download this show, download any of our podcasts. We're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, we're on Google Play, and we're on Twitter at Geek Mentality or at Fans Not Experts. This is Stranger Danger, episode 11 for Stranger Things Season 2, Episode 3, The Pollywog. And you know what that Pollywog is? That Pollywog is a future. You've already watched it. Damn it, dog. You know, right? But do we really have to fear Dart? Do we really have to worry about Dart? Or should we really fear the shadow monster? I'm very, very tired, and I'm going to bed now. Good night.
Fans Not Experts.